said, I didn't know you were watching, but because I took the summer off.
Oh.
Which chapter?
Chapter 5 tonight. All right.
This is a tough book.
No Sarah tonight, I know, because she's working.
Okay.
She's on a 24-hour shift.
Oh, I thought you would see that last week too.
This whole month.
Oh,
She's in
okay.
ICU. She works 24 hours.
Okay.
And then she's off for a day and a half to recover and then back at it. Yeah, she's looking forward to next month.
My God.
Next month is something different. I don't remember what it is now. But December's pediatrics, and that's what she's really excited about. Getting back to pediatrics.
Okay.
That's her thing. Okay, chapter 5. Let's begin with prayer. Lord God, we give you thanks for gathering us together around your word. We ask, Lord, that you would open your word to us. Help us to understand it and to be able to apply it to our lives. This we ask in your holy name. Amen. Then I saw in the right hand of him who was seated on the throne a scroll written within and on back, sealed with 7 seals. So what's the right hand? Why the right hand? Why does that matter?
Power?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the power seated, the power and authority. Yeah. Who is seated on the throne?
The Father?
Correct. The Father. So I saw in the right hand of him who was seated on the throne a scroll written within and on the back. That's kind of a strange thing for John to notice, except for the fact that you have to remember that couple of things. One is that look at Exodus 32:15. Exodus 32:15.
My footnote says are written on the inside and sealed on the back.
Mm,
No?
That's
it's written
why-
on both sides. So
Is that something that wasn't done back then?
correct?
In other words, like we have both sides with the printing
Yeah,
press.
it was never done back then. You
But,
couldn't.
you know, this is God's word, so.
Then in Exodus 32:15, then Mary Rinda, I'm coming to Bible study tonight. I'm running late. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Good. Let's see, where was I? Whoops,
Says
there we are.
35.
Then Moses turned and went down from the mountain with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hand. Tablets that were written on both sides, on the front and on the back. They were written. So human beings can't. I mean, this is remarkable because human beings can't do this. You know, this is not something human beings do. And so when John, again, this is one of those reasons why I say the commentator says never study Revelation until you've read the whole Old Testament several times, because there's so many references to the Old Testament that you wouldn't pick up unless someone pointed it out to you.
That's amazing. I
Here-
never saw that.
Yeah, here in back in Exodus, you have these the tablets of the law written on both sides, which is very strange, very unusual. No one can do that. And then now at the close of the Bible, the book of Revelation, John sees the scroll written on both sides. With Moses, I guess it would be easier if you think about it, of carving words on both sides of a stone tablet. It'd be next to impossible to write words on both sides of a piece of vellum. You know, I mean, that would be really a
Go
trick.
through, probably.
Yeah, how would you do that? Except God can.
Now, vellum, isn't that an animal?
Yeah, the sheepskin. Yeah, or even papyrus. You know, they
That
made.
would be-
Yeah, that it'd be.
I don't know how you would do it,
I don't know. Yeah, I did. So.
and it was really pretty unheard of. So that the fact that it's written on both sides, John's point or God's point there, probably is to point to who wrote it. Who wrote the scroll? God. Yeah, that's my Alexa talking in there.
Oh, I didn't know what
Yeah.
it was. I thought there was somebody there.
It's seeing the front door, and there's probably Zeke's outside. And when Zeke jumps at the front door, it tells us motion at the front door. Sealed with 7 seals. Why 7 seals?
I have no idea.
7 churches. churches?
Seven's
Perfection, perfection.
Right.
Yeah.
number of perfect,
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
impenetrable.
Yeah.
And the reason it's impenetrable is that because this scroll refers to the future, and human beings are not allowed to see the future.
We only see kind of prophecy after it's
Right.
fulfilled.
Right. We're not allowed to see the future. So anytime you run into anything that says that it can tell the future, you know that's of the devil. Okay? Whether that's horoscopes or tea
Well-
reading or palm
Well, we know
reading
that's
or
all of the devil, but
Yeah.
where do you get it that human beings are not allowed to see the future?
right there. It's sealed with 7 seals. Plus, remember that Saul, the witch of Endor, he tries to get to see the future and he gets punished.
Yeah, but that's he goes to a witch. He's not.
Yeah, but you're not allowed to see the future. That Jesus says the day neither I nor anyone else, not even I know.
For is coming, right?
Yeah, not even I know. Only the Father. Yeah, and so one of the important things there too is that to remember that the devil can't see the future either,
No,
and a lot of people think he can.
no, you can't.
Well, Saul did. Saul's willing to go to dark arts to see the future, and Satan will use that. I feel so bad for people who get all wrapped up in this stuff, and make stupid decisions in their lives based on horoscopes and tea reading and psychic readings. I mean, I cannot believe how many psychic readers there are. You drive around town and they've got signs up, psychic readers.
Well, we're
Who
specifically
would go
told
to those?
in the scripture not to go to
Oh, yeah.
psychics.
Because the future is not for us to see. Only God can see the future. And so this is sealed with 7 seals. It's absolutely impenetrable. There's no way to know what this scroll says. And then John says in verse 2, and I saw a mighty angel. And that word mighty is kind of interesting because it's speaking generally of physical strength. The word is powerful, strong. The Greek word there is there's an indication here, not just like any angel, this powerful angel, which probably indicates that it's some archangel or some level of higher angel that John's seeing here. Proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the scroll and break its seals? Okay, there's no one there. And no one, verse 3, no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth. So no one in heaven, no human beings, no demons are able to open the scroll or look at it. And I began to weep loudly because no one was found worthy to open the scroll or look into it. So John sees, he's looking into heaven, into the throne room of heaven. He sees the scroll that's going to tell all the future. Okay? And this is important because we are creatures of our time. And we always think that our time is the only time anything's ever happened. Okay? And that's just the way human beings are. And so anytime there's a kerfuffle, this is horrible, the sky is falling, we're all going to die. I love the cartoon Atlantis. There's a character in the cartoon Atlantis, this woman who's in charge of communications on the ship, and every time something bad happens, she says, "We're all gonna die." She's a chain smoker kind of voice, "We're all gonna die." And that's how we are as human beings, is that we all of us continually forget that we're not in control. It's just so easy to forget that. And I think that the stronger your faith is, the better you are at it, but no one's perfect at it. And so John's standing there in heaven crying because when you think of John's the church is in dire straits. Mm-hmm. This is under persecutions of probably Domitian, maybe Claudius. We're not sure exactly John's time that he's been through. Nero. He's definitely gone through Nero already.
Yes,
and the church he's the last apostle alive. They've all been martyred.
So what year do you think this is?
Probably 90 to 95, somewhere in there. Some people date it earlier. Surely it's after the fall of Jerusalem, but we're not sure exactly how far after. You can make arguments for all kinds of dates in there, but I like the later date of around 1995. And John really wants. He gets this vision. I think he's separated from his churches. He's the pastor of these 7 churches. He's separated from them. He can't get to them. This is not a masking ordinance. He's been exiled. He's been exiled. He's out. He's gone. And he really wants. Now he sees. Oh, I'm going to see the scroll that has the future on it, but it's got 7 seals, and nobody can open it. Okay, and so he starts to cry, which you can understand. He just doesn't. What else has he got to do? And one of the elders, remember, there's the 12 elders.
So he must be close to 100 at this age.
Yeah, probably. If it is 95, he's an old person. Let's see. Figure Jesus. If Jesus was born in 4 BC, which that's what we think he was born in 4 BC. So John, we figure, would be a contemporary. So he would be anywhere from 90 to 100 years old at this point, if it's that late. Yeah. And one of the elders said to me, "Weep no more. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has conquered, and so that he can open the scroll and its 7 seals." Well, who's the Lion of the tribe of Judah? Jesus. Yeah. Who's the Root of David? Jesus. Yeah. And he has conquered. What is that? How has he conquered?
Well, we know he overcame.
Right. He's already done the work on the cross at this point. He's already done the work on the cross, and he has risen back into heaven. He's ascended. And the elder is telling him, don't be ridiculous. Stop your whining. Jesus has got this under control. It's kind of interesting that, it's pretty blunt, I think. Weep no more. Behold, the Lion. Come on, John. He doesn't pat him on the back and say, "Oh, poor John. We're so sorry for you." He says, "Stop crying. This is fine." Verse 6, "And between the throne and the 4 living creatures, and among the elders, I saw a lamb standing, as though it had been slain, with 7 horns and with 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent out into all the earth." Okay, unpack that. Okay, so a lamb standing. Who's the lamb standing? It's got to be Jesus, right? Jesus is always lamb. As though it had been slain. So apparently they has marks. The marks of the cross are still on him. Okay, he has the hole in his side, the hole in his hands, the hole in his feet. With 7 horns and 7 eyes. Okay, horns are signs of power and authority, right? 7 eyes, omniscience. So omnipotence, omniscience, right? So it's the risen Christ that he's seeing here. All seeing, all powerful, the risen Christ. And he went and he took the scroll from the right hand of him who was seated on the throne. This is the coronation of Jesus. Is what John's seeing here. Jesus goes to the throne with his Father on it and takes the scroll from his right hand. And now it's in Jesus' hand. And then we know from the rest of Scripture that all things, all power is executed through Jesus. Creation is executed through Jesus. Redemption is executed through Jesus. All things are done through Jesus. And so now Jesus takes the scroll into his hand. And now he has the scroll. And he went and took the scroll from the right hand of him who is seated on the throne. And verse 8, and when he had taken the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each holding a harp and golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. All right, so if you want to know more about the harp and the golden bowls of incense. Let me find my reference here. Where's my reference? Oh, no, I've lost my page on where I had that. Who are the elders?
Well, that's great that you were going to go anyhow.
Who are the
That you were going to go to
7,
the
10?
Holy Land.
Well, now I've lost the reference.
What did you-
Look
what
at
did you
Psalm
say?
141.
141?
Look at Psalm 141. See what that says. I have that written in the margin here. I don't know why I have it. So it might reference this. Psalm 141.
Let my prayer be counted
There
as
you go.
incense.
Yeah. Yeah, 141 2. Or is it later? Let's see. Yeah, 141 2. Yeah, let my prayer be counted as incense before you, and the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice. Where do you hear those words? Right, evening prayer. Right. Let my prayer rise before you as incense. Yeah, Psalm 141 is chanted during evening prayer. So it's very common throughout the Bible to have the prayers referred to in conjunction with incense. Revelation 8. Let's see. No, I'll look at that. I don't know if everyone got that. Okay. Incense is a great thing. Incense is it's a phenomenal tool because it's both. It affects two senses, both smell and sight. Yeah, and so we don't use incense because the reaction is so negative to incense from people. A small number of people react so negatively that we just don't do it because
they have some allergy to it.
well, they think they do. I mean, people are in this day and age. Anything people don't like, they're allergic to. Well, I'm allergic to that. No, you're not. You just don't like it. There's like, for instance, we're past this now because nobody smokes anymore. But we went through that stage of where everyone's allergic to cigarette smoke. I'm allergic to cigarette. No, you're not. No one's allergic to cigarette smoke. You just don't like it, and it irritates your eyes and your nose because you're not used to it. Believe me, there's no such thing as an allergy to a cigarette smoke. But oh yeah, I have allergies. I can't do that. It is an unusual smell, and it is something that if you're not used to it, it kind of is like, oh, what's that?
Does it, is it the same smell continuously, throughout? Do they change the type of incense or anything?
I'm not into that enough to know.
Yeah.
The people I know who use incense, like the pastor at Redeemer in Fort Wayne, uses incense, and he uses a standard incense. He uses the same thing all the time.
All the time.
But I've been to their worship service where they use the incense at the beginning to purify the altar and purify the celebrant, and it's just really visual. You can just I think things like that are visual. That's why I like the banner. We got the banners going now. And it's so cool to see those banners.
You said I attended the Lutheran Church in San Diego, which had incense. So you said you're going to San Diego. I don't know what the name of it is. It's been years ago. It was 3 years, but yeah, it was 3 years. I was working for Payless, so we were at a convention out there. And I remember they used incense there. I can't remember.
I don't know. There are we have some English district churches in San Diego.
I don't know if this was English district,
Yeah,
though.
but the only one that I think would have used incense back then. I don't know if they still do or not. Hey, Mary.
Hey, Mary.
Would have been
Hi, Mary.
First Lutheran in El Cajon, but I don't know if they still do that or not.
I've been in alcohol, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe, I don't know.
So incense is a really cool thing, particularly when you're talking about prayers and the smoke goes up, and the prayers have a visual component, and I think that anything we do in worship to use more of the senses is better. So I mean, I love the stained glass windows.
Oh, yeah.
When I go to churches that don't have stained glass, I feel bad for them. Because usually they don't have stained glass because they can't afford it. I just went to. I've been talking about Emmanuel in Alexandria, and they have. I went there in August, and they have absolutely the coolest sanctuary in the world.
Really?
They have this huge.
Virginia?
Yeah, Alexandria, Virginia. They have this huge. What do they call it? A triptych, where it has 3 scenes,
Oh.
and then opens up by the cross, and then it folds closed for Lent, and it has a different image on the outside that is a Lenten image. Oh, it's just. I mean, they have just done a phenomenal job there of visual arts.
Similar things like that are in Europe in churches.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's really neat. And so, our church, the beauty of our church is not something to take lightly.
No.
Because modern churches, to try to build with the kind of beauty that we have, it's almost fiscally impossible.
Oh, even just the masonry
Uh-huh.
that we have is
The
fantastic.
masonry, the windows, the organ. I mean, it's just almost impossible for a new church to afford that kind of stuff.
I remember when this church bought the organ, it was like 100,000. Do you guys remember? Isn't that correct?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And that just blew me away. That was like 1980 or something.
Would have been in the 80s. No, let's see. We just celebrated the 40th anniversary.
Yeah.
So 22 was the 40th anniversary, so it would have been 82, right? Yeah. 82 that we bought it. Yeah. Yeah, $100,000 in 82.
That was a big deal.
Yeah, back then college tuition was, $1,200 a semester. So, and to replace that organ now, it'd be almost $1 million to replace it. Yeah. That's why we spend money to take care of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes people look at the budget and say, "Oh, it costs us all this money for this organ every year." Yeah, because it has to be taken care of. That's a huge investment. So we're talking about Revelation chapter 5, and we're looking at verse 7. And he went and took a scroll from the right hand of him who was seated on the throne. And when he had taken the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each holding a harp and golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. Why did they fall down in front of the Lamb?
To worship. As
Worship.
means of worship.
Yeah. That cues you that this is Jesus. Because you got to remember that we don't have capitals in the Greek. It's all lowercase, pretty much, in the Greek New Testament. So whenever you see the Lamb, well, what are we talking about? Are we talking about a farmyard creature? Are we talking about, what are we talking about? But if they're falling down and prostrate in front of the Lamb, now we know it's capital L, capital Lamb with a capital, prayers of the saints for the golden bowls. Okay, and they sang a new song, saying. So this is interesting. Who's singing the song here? The 24 elders and the 4 living creatures, right? They're singing this new song, and I think it's important that we see that it's a new song. Worthy are you to take the scroll and to open its seals, for you were slain, and by your blood you ransomed people for God, from every tribe and language and people and nation, and you have made them a kingdom and priests to our God, and they shall reign on the earth. Let's see. We have, we talked about that. New song built around the redemption of the world, new covenant. The singers are not the angels. Okay, no angels are singing here. Just the 24 elders.
Who are they? I missed, that was...
12 apostles, 12 prophets. Those are the 24.
Who were the 12 prophets?
The minor prophets.
All the prophets. Yeah. The point is the Old Testament and New Testament.
So are we thinking this is literally the 12 apostles? Literally?
No, it couldn't be, because John's still alive. So it couldn't be the 12 apostles, because
John's
literally,
still alive.
yeah, he's writing this, and so the 24. But remember, 12 is a perfect number, so 24 prophets, 24 apostles, Old Testament, New Testament, all of the leaders of the church of God.
And this is a vision, he sees.
Right. Yeah, this is all a vision. Yeah, none of this is to be taken literally. It's all a vision. He makes it real clear this is a vision. And so when you have your Assemblies of God folks try to say, well, what this means is, no, it's a vision. Or the Jehovah's Witnesses, well, there's only going to be 144,000 people in heaven. No, it's a vision. And this is why I said last week that nobody should be allowed to read Revelation until they've read the Old Testament 3 times. Because there's so much referencing that you don't even see to the Old Testament. You
don't see it.
So you got to be real careful about trying to affix any one-to-one correlations in Revelation. It's not the point. The point was not to give a one-to-one correlation and tell you when the world's going to end. That's not the point. Remember, the point of Revelation, we win.
Yeah.
That's it. Always got to keep that in mind. That's
and that's
the point.
Great. I mean, I hear people that don't go to church but have faith saying that same thing. Well, the good news about Revelation is we win.
Right. So these are the 24 elders singing. They represent all of human beings, all the human beings, Old Testament, New Testament, prophets, apostles, all humanity, and they're singing this song. Worthy are you to take the scroll and to open its seals, for you were slain, and by your blood you ransomed people for God from every tribe and language and people and nation, not just the Jews. Every people, every nation. I preached a sermon a few weeks ago about that. That the radical idea in the Isaiah text that I was using, I think it was Isaiah 60, is it's not just the Jews, it's all people that God comes to save, and that is a radical idea. Because is that something I'm supposed to look at or not? No, not yet. I don't know what that is. Sarah's not. She's at work tonight, so she won't. I don't think anyone will be texting, but she's the one that usually texts. Then we move on to a second song. There's 3 songs here. So song 1, "Worthy are you through they shall reign on the earth." Okay. Before I go on, verse 10. "And you have made them a kingdom of priests to our God, and they shall reign on the earth." Now, our Bible church folks, and Assemblies of God, and those people, that's where they get one of the places where they get the post-millennialism that Jesus will come back, or not premillennialism, where Jesus will come back secretly, and you'll have a secret rapture, and then the people of God will reign secretly as on the earth. Okay.
They get that from that.
Well, that's one of the places where they get that. Yeah, there's going to be a 1,000-year reign.
The 1,000-year millennial.
Yeah, that's not what that says.
Wow.
You have made them king. You have made. Look at the past tense there. You have made them king. Who has made us a kingdom of priests? We have been made. It's already done.
Right.
We are already a kingdom of priests. Who did that?
Jesus.
When he died on the cross. Yeah, when he died on the cross, that's when he made us a kingdom of priests to our God. And when do we reign on earth? Right now.
Wow.
Right now, we are reigning on earth. We need to stop acting like we're not. We need to stop being
Whining.
Yeah, being whiny little people, and realize that we are kingdoms of priests, and we are reigning right now. Okay? I always think back to Jesus's parable of the mustard seed. If you have faith the size of this mustard seed, you can say to that mountain, "Move into the sea," and it will. And I just think, what kind of power do we have that we're not tapping because we don't believe we have it? What if David had said, "Oh, I'm scared of those giants. I'm not going to try to fight him."
He would have negated his own faith.
Yeah. And yet David takes 5 smooth stones and says, "Here I go."
But he had a lifetime of experience. He killed the bear and he killed the lion through faith. He says, I took care of the bear, I took care of the lion. This guy's not going to stop me.
Yeah. Well, and you think back in your life of all the things that God has brought you through. You know, how much more do you need? You know, before you finally believe, oh, I am a priest of God. This is also interesting to think about that term priest. The priests to our God. That word priest is interesting. What is a priest?
Someone who intercedes for others.
Right.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. So the Old remember these are people. The Old Testament's all they got. So when he says priests to our God, what are they hearing? They know there's this guy who goes into the temple and offers a sacrifice for them, right? And there's a very ritualized bunch of stuff you have to do in certain order and certain things. You cast certain amounts of blood to the altar and certain amount of blood to the people, and some of it has to be burned up on. I mean, there's a whole lot of rules. This is what the priest does, and the priest is absolutely essential because no priest, no sacrifice, no forgiveness. So the people are well aware that priests are essential. Okay. Now John says here God says through John, and you have made them a kingdom and priests to our God, which says what? We're all priests. We all occupy that priestly office. That's where we get the phrase priesthood of all believers.
Right. This is from here? From here?
Well, it's one of the places. I mean, there's other places, 2 Peter, and there's other places that talks about us being priests. Kingdom and priests to our God. So when we talk about the priesthood of all believers, we recognize that all of us stand in that position. All of us make sacrifices to God on a regular basis of our time, of our talents, of our tithes. All of us do this, and we have received complete forgiveness by virtue of the once and for all sacrifice of Jesus Christ. You know, now out of the priesthood of all believers, we call certain ones to be the leaders, and those are the pastors, right? And so when I consecrate the elements on Sunday morning, I'm not doing that because I'm somehow elevated above the people. It's because the people have called me, because not everybody can fit behind the altar. You know, it would be a circus to try to get everyone behind the altar to consecrate together. You know, but rather they said, no, we're calling one to function for all of us. And so that's the job of the pastor, is calls one from among the priesthood of all believers. So the pastor has to come out of the priesthood of all believers, and the priesthood of all believers sets him aside. That's what ordination is a setting aside, and say, you're the one who's going to carry out the office. We own the office, but you're going to carry it out on our behalf. And so when we call it the public office of the ministry, the office of the public ministry, we're not saying public in the sense of in front of people, but public in the sense of on behalf of people. So the office is yours. You and I, as a member of the priesthood of all believers, we all own the office. And then a group of people call one to be their leader. Okay, it doesn't elevate him; it sets him aside. It says this one is going to do this. This is your job to take care of this. And of course, in then in Acts 6, they called they had the apostles, and pretty soon the apostles were overwhelmed and said, "We can't do everything that needs to be done here, so we're going to have to create some more offices here." And so they created the diaconate to take care of some things, so that the apostles could be focused on things that only they could do. Okay, because the priesthood of all believers says, the priesthood says, you're to consecrate, you're to pray, you're to baptize, you're to proclaim for us on our behalf, but there's still a lot of other stuff that has to be done. In order for all that to happen, there's still a lot of other stuff, and that's the office of the diaconate. And I always say that if if I were, dictator for the day, one of the things I would do is I would get rid of all of these silly titles in churches. And I would say there's pastors and there's deacons/deaconesses. That's it. There's not teachers and directors of education.
Are there deaconesses in the New Testament? Or is that something we made up?
Well, yeah, there's deaconesses. There's women who serve as appointed by God. I can't remember if the term deaconess is used or
Right,
not.
that's what I was
I
asking.
think it is somewhere.
I'd have to
I
look
was
that up
seeing it,
to be
yeah.
sure. Yeah, I can't remember.
Let's see if it's,
I'm not remembering right now. But there's people who are pastors and everybody else. And you can be a paid deaconess or a deacon or an unpaid. Pay has nothing to do with it. Pay also, by the way, has nothing to do with being a pastor. It has absolutely nothing to do with it. There's many, many pastors who serve unpaid because they don't need to be paid.
They don't need to be paid?
Well, yeah, I have a good friend who's a pastor at a little church that he doesn't take any pay because his wife is a surgical nurse, and she makes, I don't know, a couple $100,000 a year, and he didn't have any. And this is out in the Midwest. He didn't have any need for money, so he intentionally serves churches that can't afford pastors. And his goal is to build them up to the point and to straighten them out to the point where they can afford a pastor. So that's what he does. That's his mission. But I still remember in the early days, he was called out of the seminary. He was a second career guy. And so he was already in his 40s when he took his first call. And he told the congregation the situation because they wanted a pastor. The seminary worked with them and said, we have this guy who can come that is not going to require a lot. This is a little tiny country church, had no money whatsoever. And they told him when he got there, they said, look, this is what we can do. We take the offering, we pay the bills, what's left over goes to you. He says, that's fine. So first year or so, was fine, and then the church started to grow. He's a pretty good preacher, and he's a decent pastor. And next year, the church grew a little more. Pretty soon, the money that was going to him was pretty substantial. And they came back to him and said, I think we need to renegotiate this. He says, I was wondering when you'd come back.
Didn't expect that. Deacon here is Romans 16:1,
Right, that's what I thought.
and then 1 Timothy 3:8.
Deaconess in Romans.
Let me look here and see what it. Romans. Let me look at the Greek.
Yeah, you have
Romans
Greek
16.
on your phone?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I commend to you our sister Phoebe, a servant of Christ. I don't see the word deaconess.
Servant.
Let's see what they say servant is. Come on. Nope, it's not working for me.
Is that a free app you have? For
No.
The Greek?
Romans
No, it's Logos.
16:1.
Logos, oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Come
funny.
on. It's not working for me though.
And then 1 Timothy
There we go.
3:8.
Yeah, servant or deaconess. So it is yeah.
What is it in the Greek?
Diakonos.
Oh, it is deaconess in the Greek.
Diakonos. And then what's 1 Timothy what?
3:8.
3:8. Deacons likewise must be dignified, not double-tongued, not addicted to much wine.
Not
Yes.
double tongued. Does that mean they don't lie? Is that what that is?
I'm not sure I would say they don't lie. I would say they don't intentionally lie. I think double-tongued is the goal. I mean, when we're talking about double-tongued, you're talking about somebody who lies for their own benefit. Everybody lies from time to time, and it's not necessarily intentional, and it's not necessarily, or sometimes it's intentional, but it's a sin of omission or commission. It's not a pattern. So I think double-tongued is referring more to a pattern. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I was going to say is I would get rid of all of the titles in the church, and you either pastor or deacon, deaconess. And then what you do would be described your job description. You could be a deaconess or a deacon that plays music. You could be a deacon or deaconess that teaches. You could be a deacon or deaconess that does care, some kind of elder care or early childhood care. You could do all kinds of things by job description. But our intention of trying to find a title of everybody, we have directors of evangelism, directors of education, directors of outreach, we have so many directors that nobody knows what anyone does anymore. And then you have the problem of people misunderstanding the difference between the pastoral office and all those other offices. And because now we call them, see, and the problem is that the call into the pastoral office is a divine call. In other words, it's required by the Bible. In the Bible, you have to have a pastor and a congregation. Okay, that's the marriage, a pastor and a congregation. You don't have to have anything else. Everything else is gravy. Okay, so then you have ecclesiastical calls, where you call the deacons and deaconesses to facilitate the pastoral office, because all of this stuff needs to be done too, and he can't do it all. It's too much to get for one person to do. And so we call deacons and deaconesses to do that. The problem is we still use that word call.
It confuses the people.
It confuses everybody. And it confuses the deacons and deaconesses. Because I've had teachers tell me, well, I'm called. I have a call too. And I would say, you have an ecclesiastical call. What's that mean? It means that we could fire you and still be church. If they fire me, they're not church anymore. Okay, because church has pastor and people. Then you might have a vacancy for a time.
And does church require to be a church the sacraments?
Yes.
Okay, so
the marks of the church are the word and sacraments. Yeah.
Word and sacraments. Marks. That's what I.
The marks of the church.
I forgot the term marks.
Right. Yep. The word and sacraments. Right. Yeah. And then there's always, and there's so much confusion in the church today, especially about the role of laity. What can the laity do and what can't they do?
God bless you. Well, the marks of the church, all these Bible churches, these churches that meet in theaters or whatever, and they don't even, but they don't have sacraments. So how could they be a church?
Yeah. Well, Luther would say they have what they say they have.
Well,
Yeah, they have baptism.
they have one sacrament.
They have the word. And the word, remember, the word always rules the sacraments. Okay? The word always, because there's no sacraments without the word.
Right.
Because the word invests the power into the sacraments.
Well, they are.
So as long as you
do a good job at trying to be faithful to the
Yeah.
word.
So if you have the word, you can be a Christian church.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like Luther would say, you're missing out on some of the gifts. It's like coming down from Christmas and wrapping 2 gifts under the tree and saying, okay, I'm done. Well, you have 15 more gifts. Well, I don't anymore. I'm done. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you want all of the gifts? Now, Norman Nagel would say that's the gift refusal point, and that's where heresy blooms. Okay? It's where you refuse God's gifts. There's where the heresy is, because there's a reason you're refusing God's gifts. That's the gift refusal point. And so, for instance, Baptists refuse the power of baptism. Why? Because they don't want God to take full control of their lives. They want something. They want to be able to do something in order to be a good believer. And so baptism is their way of doing that. That's the heresy. Why don't they, picking on the Baptists again, why don't they believe that the body and blood of Christ are truly present in, with, and under the bread and wine?
Because they don't know any better, really. They don't know any better.
Because they don't want that kind of stuff to be, that's just too mystical, I want to be able to touch it and control it. And when you tell me that somehow the body and blood of Christ enters into me, the physical body and blood of Christ, that's just ridiculous. I don't want to have to believe something that's ridiculous.
Well, like Bishop Rick told me when I was in college. He said that it's Zwingli's theology.
Yeah.
Zwingli brought that into the church,
Yeah.
and he's right. I mean, that is correct. Zwingli brought that error, and it is really rationalism.
Right.
Rationalism.
Yeah, it's a vestige of rationalism, sure. Yeah, that's the old fable is, we don't know if it's true or not, but I like it. I want to believe it's true, that while Luther and Zwingli were in dialogue, Luther carved into his dining room table, "This is my body."
Into Zwingli's dining room?
That's the legend, you know. And I just picture Mrs. Zwingli coming in and saying, "What did he do?" You know, "This is my body." What do the words say? That's what Luther would always come back to. What do the words say?
Well, you're safe that way. I mean,
So back
I think all heresy comes from the theologians, obviously.
generally, yeah. So obviously, what I was saying was about the laity. It confuses the role of laity and the role of the office when we have all of these different people who are called and all these different people who, are all these jobs that are in there. That are they? And in some churches, in this church, we have it right. The pastor is over the whole ministry staff, and so nobody controls the ministry staff but me. But in some churches, that's not true. In some churches, you have boards that can control different members, and the pastor has nothing to say about what the DCE is doing, or what the youth director is doing, or that's the board of youth, or that's the board of education, or that's and then the laity, it just gets all confusing. It's like when I had a lay leader one time tell me that they were. How was it said? It was something about, I have authority because I've been elected by the people, and I said to him, well, I've been elected by the people as well. I said, the difference is you were elected for 2 years. I was elected for life. Yeah. I mean, that's really, both laity and pastors are elected. That's not the issue. The issue is there a term on the election? For the pastor, there's no term. You're the pastor for life in that congregation, which is what I've tried to tell congregations who keep trying to fire their pastors. You can't fire them, because they're elected. And if you do, you can, you may not. But if you do, you're going to be in for a world of hurt, because the Lord does not look kindly upon that. I tell them that all the time, and they won't believe me, and they do it anyway, and then they suffer. And they wonder why they suffer. It's like people who refuse to give and wonder why they're broke all the time.
Yeah.
God says it.
Yeah.
He's so clear about it. Give me your first fruits, and I'll take care of the rest. Cheat me, and you're going to always suffer. There's never going to be enough. He says it flat out.
Works. That's works.
Yeah, he says it flat out. Trust me, and I'll take care of you. Don't trust me, do it on your own, and you'll do it on your own. And it never works out very well.
But that sounds pretty much like Judaism to me.
No, there's nothing Jewish about that.
No.
That's what God says.
That's the law. That's doing works. That's what we are.
In this world, in this life, God gives you work to do. If you choose not to do it, that's fine. You're still saved. But you're going to suffer in this life. You're not going to have the blessings that you would otherwise in this life.
All the blessings are given to us by grace through faith, not by works.
Not all the blessings.
Not by works.
No, he doesn't promise that. That's why he gives you the 10 Commandments. 10 Commandments are all about life on this earth. It has nothing to do with salvation. You don't get more saved if you respect authority. You have a better life on earth. You don't get more saved if you
Don't steal
keep the Lord's name holy. You don't get more saved, and you don't go to hell if you use His name badly. But it damages your life on this earth. Yeah, 10 Commandments are all about life. There are works. We can't, as Lutherans, we're very cautious about works because we don't want anyone to think that if you that your salvation is based on works. That somehow, no, salvation is based on Christ's death on the cross. That's it. If you have faith in Christ, if you have and I like to say a relationship, because people don't understand that word have faith. What does have faith mean? If you have a relationship with Christ, then you are saved. Okay? What kind of life do you want until you go to heaven? If you want a joy-filled life on this earth, to the best it can be, then you follow the Ten Commandments. To the extent that you follow the Ten Commandments, you will be rewarded on this earth. To the extent that you break the commandments, you will not be rewarded. I wouldn't say punished, because people associate divine punishment with lightning bolts coming from heaven. But the point is if you are a philanderer, don't expect to have deep and meaningful relationships. You're going to have a lot of broken relationships in your life. You're not going to go to hell because of it, but you're going to have a lot of broken relationships. If you steal, there are going to be consequences. You may go to jail. You're not going to go to hell, but you could go to jail. And certainly, no one's going to like you very much if you steal from them all the time. If you're a gossip, you're going to be gossiped about, and you're going to be not liked and not held in good standing. Yeah, people aren't going to respect you if you're a gossip. I used to try to tell people who were gossips that they were gossips, and then I just gave up because they just gossiped about it. It does no good until they finally get slapped in the face with it, and then I look at them and say,
well, it's the whole idea of the works come after faith. You want
right.
to give your time to
But-
help support the church and tithing.
Right.
You want to give your talents to help support the church. You want to give your time to do things for the church.
Right.
And everything.
Well, yeah, we
Exactly.
know works come after faith.
and if you look at your
So,
life and you say,
that's what time, talent, tithing is all
Right.
about.
if you look at your life and you say, I don't really have enough works. If you take, and I encourage people to do that, take an honest assessment of your life. Look at your life and say, am I really doing what I'm supposed to be doing?
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer is, no, I'm really not, what do? Feed your faith. Your faith is like the steam engine on a train. You got to stoke the furnace in order to get the steam going to make the train move. So feed your faith. How do you feed your faith? Word and sacrament. So I tell this especially to the high school kids all the time, because it's so hard for them. They live in such a works world.
Oh, yeah.
Everything about their life is works, and so it's so hard for them to understand the relationship between faith and works. Yes, we should want more. I always want more good works in my life. I've never had a point in my life where I've said, I've really done enough. I can kind of relax. I've done enough. I've never had that. I don't expect to ever have that. Okay? So that means I have to continue stoking my faith. But I have been amazed over the years at the things my faith has done. When I look back and I think, how did I do that? Oh, my faith did that. How did I do that? My faith did that. I didn't do that. My faith did that. Isn't that amazing? Look at what God can do. Then I looked, verse 11, then I looked and I heard around the throne and the living creatures and the elders the voice of many angels. So here's song number 2 coming up here. Now we've got the angels numbering myriads of myriads. A myriad is 1,000. So thousands of thousands and thousands and thousands. So tens of thousands, millions of angels singing with a loud voice, worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and might and honor and glory and blessing. And I heard every creature in heaven and on earth and under. So first of all, we had the representatives of man, the 24 elders and 24 apostles. Prophets and apostles, the 12 and 12. Then we added all the millions of angels. Now I heard every creature in heaven and on earth and under the earth and in the sea and all is in them saying, to him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb be blessing and honor and glory and might forever. So the point there Those under the who are those under the earth?
Well, and before, they were the demons.
Right. Right. So even the demons,
are going to,
yeah,
Oh my
even the
God.
demons have to say it. That's to him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb be blessing and honor and glory and might forever and ever. The demons have to bow down. And the 4 living creatures said, Amen. And the elders fell down and worshipped. Again, the laying prostrate is a phenomenal sign of devotion and worship to God. And so this is what we believe this to be. Most people do. John is looking into the throne room and seeing the coronation of Christ. This is what's going on here, is that Christ is now officially taking his role as the ruler of the universe. And because you have all human beings, all angels, even the demons have to fall down and worship the King of the universe. They have no choice. It's out of their hands, which I think is really, really good news.
Yeah, it is good news. God's forcing them to do that.
Yeah, someone commented
They're not doing it out of the goodness of
the
their heart.
video was breaking up bad, but I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. Might just be the internet for some reason. I don't know.
have you thought of going to Zoom?
No, I hadn't thought of that.
It would be a subscription,
Yeah.
because of they want you to subscribe.
I don't know if Zoom would be any better than if it's our internet. Would it be better than Facebook?
Well,
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Is it?
your internet here in this church should be fiber now, isn't it?
I don't know.
Well, that makes. I just had fiber.
I assume
put in.
so, but I don't know.
They're giving it to everybody.
The good news for those of you who are watching out there, the good news is that at least on Sunday mornings, pretty soon, we're going to have good quality live stream on Sunday mornings because the council just approved the purchase of a new video system, and we're going to have like a professional installation that will tie it into our sound system and do all that. We're going to pay for it out of memorial funds.
Well, ask that person then, why is Facebook doing this to you all the time, and what would be better to use?
They may
Yeah.
have a bad. He may not have. We
Well, we
may
could-
not have fiber.
we could
to
try
the
Zoom.
church.
I don't know. I just got rid of our Zoom subscription because we did never use it, but
Oh,
we used it during the pandemic a lot, but I haven't used it lately. So I don't know what to think about it.
Well, find out.
See,
what,
the problem with Zoom though
you
is
would
that,
have to tell everyone, Margaret would have to send
Right.
out the notice. to
and like this
everyone.
person, I don't even know who this person is who commented that the video is breaking up, and I have people all over
it
the
could be on
country
their side.
that I don't
it
even
could
know.
Be on their. It could be on their end.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, AT&T is rolling out fiber to everybody here in Villa Park. I just
Well,
had
they
mine.
just did Lombard too.
Yeah.
Okay, I just had it. It went from 24 megabits per second to 300.
Okay.
No charge.
Any questions on chapter 5?
No.
Before we conclude
no.
tonight? Okay, next week we start. Let's see, it's now we met next week. Next week we're not meeting. I'm out of town next week. In 2 weeks, so nothing next week. In 2 weeks we're going to pick up chapter 6, and that's fun because we start opening the seals, and that's where you get the 4 riders of the apocalypse, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and all that kind of fun stuff to talk about. And your assignment is to read chapter 6 and figure out who the 4 horsemen are, and be able to be ready to report who the 4 horsemen are. All right, let's close with the blessing. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up his countenance upon us and give us peace.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Very good.
Logan was on your retreat.